It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Mandy the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello all.
How are you guys doing?
Okay.
Doing well. And you?
Doing alright. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, I found something in a very weird place last night.
Okay.
I was flipping around YouTube, which, not that YouTube is weird by nature, but the fact that I found a 10-year-old documentary about H.P. Lovecraft, like full length, like an hour and a half long. It was just sitting there on my thing on YouTube. I was like, oh, wow. And so I started watching it. It's called Lovecraft, Fear of the Unknown. And it's quite the star-studded event. There's a lot of very famous people in that documentary. People like Guillermo del Toro and Neil Gaiman and John Carpenter and Stuart Gordon, and just a list of these really interesting people talking about Lovecraft. And it's one of those, and the problem I have, one of the reasons why it's stuck in my head, is because I can't remember if I saw it like 10 years ago when it came out or not. And I've watched half of it, and I still can't remember. It all seems really familiar, but I'm not sure if that's because I'm familiar with the story, with kind of Lovecraft's story, or if I've actually seen this movie.
Okay.
But anyway.
Well, that's a possibility of both.
Right. But if I've seen it, it's been years, and I'm just kind of only barely on the fringes of remembering it. And it struck me as odd also that I found it on YouTube of all places, but, it's
Right.
cool.
Well, I mean, if it's a 10-year-old documentary, I mean, yeah. You slept and read and watched and a lot of other stuff since then, so...
Yeah, once or twice.
It's possible. Cool. Les?
This weekend I attended a convention here in the Dallas area. Very interesting. It was new digs for the convention being held. Normally they were holding it in a small hotel in West Dallas. Now it was downtown at the Fair Park area. It was interesting. They had some nice big-name people there, and very roomy this time. You didn't have to crawl across people to get to different tables. I also read the first chapter of the Kamandi challenge and enjoyed it. Wondered how they were going to resolve it. And if you read the first chapter, then at the end of it, there was a letter from one of the writers of the first portion of this chapter, writing about how he would resolve the cliffhanger that was given. Now he had no contact as far as writing that portion of the first chapter. And that way he can give his idea, and then we will see in the next issue how it is resolved, because that writing team and art team will not know of the previous resolution. They will come up with their own, which is the unique part of the challenge. And I thought that was pretty cool to this man just to say, okay, this is how I would have done it.
That is cool.
Well, yeah, and we'll wait for the next issue and see how they do come across and resolve it, and then what they do to give another cliffhanger. So this will be fun 12-issue challenge.
Yep.
Very meta.
I agree. It was a fun issue. It really was. Alrighty. For me, I did a little viewing. I think we may need to take one episode and talk about this particular one, but I finally stopped down and saw For the Love of Spock. Great documentary.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of the stuff I did know, but the personal stuff I did not, and it was kind of interesting to hear some of the stuff going on, especially with Adam Nimoy, Leonard's son. And I don't want to get into too much because that may be something we may save for another day. Because I could go on. I think Mike and I can go on for an hour or so just talking about this. But I did enjoy it. It was a very interesting viewing, and I would like to see it again, and probably will here real soon.
Yeah, I would want to see it again if we were going to actually talk about it on the show, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can do that. Second of all, you talk about funny finding that documentary on YouTube. Well, this past weekend, I'm not going to name the website, but it is a streaming service, and it's one of these that I am so surprised that it's not been taken down because some of the streamers are showing stuff that they don't have the rights to show.
Oh no.
Oh no. And in this case, because of this particular streamer, I saw The Return of the Caped Crusaders, the animated movie with Adam West and Burt Ward and Julie Newmar. Because I had not seen it. I know Les has seen it because he saw it when they had the big screen premiere before the DVD came out.
Yes.
It was fun. It was fun. It was definitely in the spirit of the old show, and it's kind of funny that this happened just right after last week's episode
about the old show, right?
Right. So the timing was just kind of weird. A lot of great in jokes, and there's a couple of them. I'm sure Les would have caught it. I'm sure Les caught them, and he never mentioned them. So thank you for not doing that. But my jaw dropped a couple of times because there's a couple of scenes, and I won't go into specifics, but I'll just say in one scene, Batman kind of loses it while he's beating up Joker. And he utters the lines, "You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts."
Oh, no.
And I'm going, oh my God, that's line for line Michael Keaton from the '89 movie.
Yeah, it is.
And then later on, there's a scene where Batman's trying to convince Catwoman to become a good girl, kind of renounce her old ways and all that. And she talks about something about do you see ourselves in a cafe in Paris having a happy ending?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, that's the end of your Dark Knight Rises. I'm like, oh my, this is great.
That's not right.
And I'm sure there's a couple other ones that I just did not catch, but those kind of just had my jaw drop. I was like, oh, that's great. I love it.
They were effective in their placement, that's for sure.
They were. It was awesome.
That's not right.
And one other thing.
You were busy this week.
I happened to head over to, and I kind of posted this on Twitter, my discovery. I had gone over to Half Price Books, and I found an unopened copy of The Adventures of Superman, the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez collection. And if you're familiar with Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, great artist, his style, they used his artwork for a lot of the T-shirts, prints, and so like maybe some of the artwork that would be on the toy lines or that kind of thing. So you're very familiar with his work, and it's a great, clean style. And this was a hell of a deal. I was so floored to find it. So I obviously bought it, came home, and started reading it.
Somebody clearly did not know what they had.
I honestly, since it was still sealed, I think someone probably got it like as a present or something, and said, "Well, I don't want this, so I'll just, you know, hey, their loss is my gain."
Mm-hmm.
And it also includes the Superman versus Wonder Woman, which I believe this is the first time it's been reprinted since its Treasury edition back in the late 70s, which I still think I still have. It looks great, but it sure looks different being smaller than it was before. But beautiful. It's a beautiful, well done reprint, and I'm happy to have it.
Cool.
Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, before we get into this week's topic, let's take a couple minutes to say thank you to our sponsors. First off, we would like to say thank you to Make Mine Indie, the independent digital catalog, the source for independent comics. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on our sponsors page, you will see a link there to download a free copy of the winter catalog, which is now available. It's 138 pages. It includes reviews, it includes interviews, previews. Some of them have 2-3 pages of art from the particular titles. A lot of books that you may not be aware of, we certainly weren't aware of until this little thing came along. So recommend checking that out. And thank you, Peter and company, for being a sponsor of us. We also want to thank Things from Another World for being a sponsor of the Fellowship. While you're on our sponsors page, if you scroll down and take a look at some of the deals that they are currently running, right now they're doing a $1 back issue comic sale, which is good through the end of February. And in addition to their evergreen deals, such as 40% off on comics, statues, toys, and merchandise, 30% off pre-selected order manga titles, and 50% off Nick and Dick comics and graphic novels. So while you're on our sponsors page, if you click on one of those images there for Things from Another World, that lets them know that we have sent you their way, and take advantage of some of the great deals they're offering.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. This week, we thought we needed to take an episode to acknowledge that this is the 25th anniversary of the founding of Image Comics. As we are recording it, it's actually it's the day before Image Day. Image Day was February 1st. So, but we would figure we would talk a little bit about its history and some of the books that have come out, and just talk about some of the good things that have come down because of this company. For those who may not be aware of Image, well, I mean the history of Image,
Right?
The
Yeah.
history. Yeah.
Thinking we talk about Image every week, man. One way or another.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean we always talk about it, but I mean just some of the history.
Which is a hint as to the impact on us. But anyway, we'll get to that.
Right. It was founded by, it's about 7 all-star creators. They were mainly, I think they're all just Marvel, although some of them had done DC work. And it was Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Will Portacio, I'm sure I'm butchering that. Mark Silvestri, Eric Larson, Jim Valentino, and Rob Liefeld decided to create a company of essentially creator-owned content, and where they could keep the rights to the characters and the stories later on. Which, if you had listened to our episode about Atlas Comics, was something that they were trying to do back then, but obviously were not successful because it just died pretty quick.
Yeah, we mentioned then that it was an idea that was before its time because they were trying to do it in the early 70s.
Right.
Obviously, 1992 was a different time and a different market and a different economic situation.
One thing, it was funny because I was trying to brush up on my history of images. Some of this I remembered, and some of this I did not. I didn't realize they called it the Exodus due to the fact that just about everybody I mentioned there, with the exception of McFarlane, Larson, and Valentino, but you're talking about 4/7, so you're at least half, were on mutant books. It was X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine. Obviously with Liefeld, it was X-Force. But
there was a fifth guy there. There was technically an eighth person who split, although he did not actually join the Image thing. Was Chris Claremont,
right?
Obviously famous writer of X-Men for years.
That's a severe hit to one particular part of a line, considering how popular X-Men were at that time. I mean, when I say these were superstars, they were superstars, and they still are. But
yeah, and part of why they were superstars is because they were working on that was Marvel's bread and butter at the time.
Yeah, those were the books. Yep.
Yeah, 7 or 8 out of 10 of their books were X books. Of their top 10 books were X books. And then obviously you had Spider-Man and a couple of others mixed in, but it was all X titles in the early 90s.
But it was funny kind of because I was trying to remember. I remembered a few of the first books that were actually put out. When I was doing a little bit more research, kind of refreshed my memory, as I said, it kind of dawned on me a comment that current publisher Eric Stevenson said a couple of years ago regarding about Image and the talk of superhero books, that they don't really do that. Obviously, there's one or two, but the majority of their stuff is nowhere near in the superhero frame. But that's how the company was founded, because they came over and they started their own superhero books. You had Savage Dragon by Eric Larson, obviously Todd McFarlane's Spawn, Youngblood by Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee's Wildcats. But it's just kind of funny how the company had changed over years. That they started by doing superhero books, and then they slowly evolved into what we have now, which are it's a nice mixture of everything. You got a little horror, you got a little sci-fi, you got a little fantasy, you have modern crime. It's just a nice mix of everything.
Mm-hmm. And the way they ended up structuring the company at the beginning, I think, probably fed that diversity, because they they created Image Comics, and then they each individually went out and kind of created their own little publishing outfit. And so each of them is kind of doing their own thing. And one of the deals with the whole Image Comics concept was that they wouldn't screw around with each other's stuff.
Right.
They would their stuff would be their stuff. They would own it. They would control it entirely. And so there's 6. It's basically it's kind of an umbrella structure with 6 studios underneath it. And so that it gives them, they can just take off and do whatever individually they want to do, and if that ends up branching away from superheroes, which clearly it did in a lot of cases, so be it.
And of course, one of those studios, Wildstorm, is now obviously a part of DC since Jim Lee is now co-publisher. But yeah, it's almost like they were all imprints of Image,
Mm-hmm.
and then Robert Kirkman comes along, and then he has his own Skybound, and so basically that's all his stuff as well. So it's
Right, and Kirkman came in with a superhero book originally.
true.
He came in with Invincible, but then branched off into Walking Dead, and the rest is history.
Yep.
And to first back them, Malibu came forward, right, and funded them to start till they could get their feet wet. Correct?
Yeah, it seemed like they came in, and a couple of the guys had talked with Malibu even before the split. And Malibu kind of started out handling like the grunt work part of publishing for them. And just to, I mean, if nothing else, kind of so they can get their feet underneath them and figure out how to do it. And then eventually they kind of brought it in-house over time.
It was, to me, it was a great idea to start. You get creator owned, which opens the door for so many others to come in. And when we discuss some of our choices, that will become very evident with the diversity of who came in and started running their own sections.
Well, it's so popular now that I mean, even DC and Marvel are trying to do that kind of thing. You know, Marvel has Icons, which is essentially Brian Michael Bendis' thing with Powers and a couple others, if I'm not mistaken. But it seems like that's the thing to do. You know, the creators that are on those two particular companies, if they want to do something of their own, they seem to go to Image because that way they have total control, and that's smart.
As much as they gave up to their former employers, when I'm talking about the first group, the first 4 or 5 people involved, working for Marvel and not getting the respect nor the payment that they were requesting for the creations that they'd made. And now you look back and these creations are in movies. Either they have their own movie or they're part of a team movie type situation. Was it Liefeld that created Deadpool?
Mm-hmm. He did.
He co-created, yeah.
Yeah.
So right there, you know, they're making millions off his creation, which I think he might have received a credit in the movie, but that's about it. I don't know that they came across with any cash for him.
I don't know.
Rob Liefeld, if you're listening and you want to come on our show and talk about how much money you got from Deadpool, we'd be happy to have you.
Well, that would be fun. That would be different.
Yeah, it would be different. It'd be knucking futs is what it would be. But anyway.
Let me ask you, Les. What was your thoughts of Image when it first came out?
When it first hit the stands, I kind of said, oh, another superhero publisher. Because at that time, you had 3. You had the big 2, and you had Valiant. Malibu was a superhero publisher. Dark Horse was not really. They were still dealing with properties.
Pretty much.
I was kind of taken aback. I thought, let's try something different.
Boring.
And by gosh, they turned it. They said, let's put some other stuff out, and they hit the market with some fantastic ideas. The creators came in and just said, this is what I want to do, and it sounds like Image wasn't saying no to many people, and the ones they were saying yes to were helping them establish Image Comics. I was really surprised looking over the list of how many of the comics I am reading or did read for their runs. My first impression, like I said, was, okay, another spandex angst kind of book. Do you recall what you were thinking?
I not really. I mean, I remember seeing some of the titles going, okay, this is interesting. Let me try this out. And I tried a couple of them. The ones that kind of caught my attention from the get-go, well, God, I mean, they all kind of did. Obviously, Spawn became real popular. I mean, so popular that, it got a movie and then got an animated show on HBO and all that. It seemed a little different, so I did try to, I did give them a try. Do I miss the fact that some of those are not around today? Well, some of those probably be coming back here real soon. Some of them have. Some of them have tried. Some of them had come back. Now, Spawn, like the types like Spawn and Savage Dragon, have never gone away. They're the oldest running books of the company, or the longest running. But Youngbloods come back one time. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't try it again with it being the anniversary. I would love to see them try to do something with Shadowhawk again. It would have to be a reboot, but that's okay. It was different. So I tried. I think it was because it was new and it looked like it was different that I was kind of excited about that, and I think that's what a lot of people were as well. It wasn't what we've been seeing the previous, however many years you had been in reading comics to that point. So it was new, it was kind of exciting. And yeah, over time, it changed, and the books are just as different and exciting and new now as was then, but it's just they're not superhero books, if that makes sense.
They're not relying on superhero books.
No, they don't have to.
And that's the big plus for them.
Yeah, the way things are now, if it's an Image book, there's people if it's a new book and it's from Image, they're going to more than likely take a chance on it because of what they've done the last 10, 15 years with the types of like Walking Dead and Saga, those types that have caught people's attention, and of course, obviously the names attached to them help too. These are writers and artists that are known for putting out really good books.
Yeah, and Image gives them an opportunity to retain the rights, as it were, to do what they want with the properties they come up with for this. And that to me is the big thing. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm over the moon or anything, but that was a huge factor in the way comics are now. That was the beginning. That was the seed that sprouted the tree that has given us a whole lot more interesting stuff. I mean, we're not stuck with what Marvel and DC want us to have anymore, and that was because of a handful of guys who were just like, no, we don't want to work with you anymore because you're too controlling.
Yeah, there's a freedom. So they can do what they want to with those characters and with those stories, and they can go a path where higher ups would probably say, no, we may want to rethink this because we need to think about something down the road or that kind of thing.
Well, they're more concerned with the brand that is Marvel or the brand that is DC than the brand that is Spawn or the brand that is Saga.
Right.
And it's a different scale.
Yeah.
And it allows the creators to focus on the smaller brand, the ideas and the creativity behind that, and actually worrying about making a good book that they're happy with and that's something that they can stand behind, as opposed to just doing their thing and handing it off to the conglomerate, to the corporation, and never touching again whether they want to or not. But yeah, I mean, back in '92, I wasn't really paying attention to comics, and I remember the ruckus that Spawn caused when it came out. I mean, I heard about it without really being anywhere near comics. I mean, honestly, I probably heard most of it from you, Tom, but or I at least heard some of it from you. But it was noteworthy even then, and
Yeah.
it was almost controversial, as I recall. It was a big deal, and like I said, I mean, I wasn't really paying that much attention to comics at the time, so I lost track for a while. But yeah, I mean, even to a layperson like me at the time, it was something that was going on. People were talking about it. I mean, it would get mentioned on the news, on like the local news and stuff, and you would read about it various wherever you got news back then, just barely pre-internet.
Yeah. So, what are some of your favorite titles? Who'd like to go first?
Well, I'll step up.
Okay.
Probably the two that are currently running that I enjoy a lot are Rat Queens and Saga. I think Rat Queens is gearing up for another round, and Saga is an ongoing. Just very interesting ideas for these two titles. The Saga having the two lovers from different locations, one from a planet that's technological, the other is from the moon, a desert moon of that planet. And it starts out like Romeo and Juliet, but it is a really good ongoing series.
There's a lot more cursing in Saga than there is in Romeo and Juliet. And a lot more sex.
There is that.
And a lot more
sex.
There
is that. But they're on the run. And it's lasted 47 issues so far. That's a pretty good run.
It's creeping up on 50. Yeah,
Yep.
For what's just a kind of a wild and crazy space opera. Yeah, it's always been very entertaining.
And then Rat Queens with the adventurers in the fantasy realm, or fantasy setting, I'll say. It's an interesting look at how the little folks get through. And they're thieves, there are con people. It's a fun read. And it has been collected in volumes, so it's well worth the time.
It is a hoot. You can clearly tell that the creators of that book are role-playing gamers and have played a lot of D&D, and mostly as adults, because again, lots of cussing in that book. It's a hoot. Hey, I love it as much as Les does, so I'm not knocking it. It's greatness.
Okay, Mikey, how about you? Was that you only had two there or less?
Of the current titles, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, I
there's
mean, well, how about some? What's some of the other ones? I mean, they may not be titles that are going on, but just some of the ones that were favorite of yours.
I really like Kurt Busiek and Brent Anderson doing Astro City because you've got superheroes in the city, and they named Astro City, and you have the villains there, and there's fighting, but there is so much intrigue within it too. To me, one of the best storylines was early on about the Confessor. And it was one of those that you started reading and were shocked by where they were going with this idea. And in Astro City, you can see where they are taking from other titles, whether it be Dark Horse, DC, Marvel, it doesn't matter. Anybody's fair game for them with their new heroes and villains. You can see where they were taking various parts of those other publishers and creating their own person. Then, of course, one of my favorites is Satellite Sam. And it was a finite series by Matt Fraction and Howard Chaykin about a children's TV presenter who was found dead. And with him, he had a box of racy photographs, which kind of define his life and his death. So it's a good mystery type title, and yet they still wrapped enough intrigue as far as the television business at that time was. And this is like I'm going to say early 50s when they were doing this storyline. And I applaud them for this.
Yeah, that was quite a story. A lot of cussing in that one too. Holy cow!
Yeah, but that's Howard Chaykin, so yeah.
Oh, and Fraction can hold his own too. Believe me.
Yeah, Matt Fraction with Casanova, you know.
I think we see a trend here, Mikey.
Well, that's like 4-letter words in his comics.
Woohoo!
That and Down and this and
Okay.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Sure.
Don't know what 4-letter words you were thinking about. Jeez.
Yeah. Okay, Mikey.
All right. So like I mentioned before, my experience with Image has been mostly recent. I remember hearing about Spawn back in the day, but I never really read it. Never really picked it up. Like I said, wasn't really into comics at the time. But stuff from more recently. Let's see, favorites. I have trouble with favorites because I end up. I mean, I've got a list. The list of stuff on the Image Comics Wikipedia page is extensive, and still actually very incomplete. But man, like half of this stuff I could list as favorites because there's just so much stuff. I'm gonna start though with Lazarus, which has been going on for a little over 3 years now. We're into, I want to say the mid-20s because they've taken some breaks because it's pretty intense stuff. But we're talking near future, quasi-apocalyptic world in which instead of governments, you now have families, and each of them kind of has their own reason for being in charge of their territory. And most of them have essentially what would be considered like a champion in the terms of like a medieval champion, a single knight, for lack of a better term, who kind of steps up and handles combat when when challenges happen, and each of these people is called a Lazarus, and the story focuses for the most part around the Lazarus of this one family, and how she interacts with her family and with other families and with other Lazaruses or Lazari. I'm not really entirely sure what the plural for it is, but it's just this really, there's lots of drama, and there's lots of high tech stuff. I mean, Forever is the main character is like heavily genetically engineered, so there's a lot of tech stuff going on there, and I don't know. I guess I'm a Greg Rucka fan too, to an extent. So that's kind of what suckered me in, and it's just been an awesome story all the way through.
Okay. I'm kind of the same way. There was so many
Right, it's hard to
on
choose.
this. I kind of went a little older because I figured go a little bit more current. But there is. I mean, there's way too many out there that are current. They're so awesome. Even Nailbiter, Birthright, and those. I mean, we talk about those all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to point out some of the ones that are from its past. And first one I want to bring up was Ultra, which was by Jonathan and Joshua Luna. And this is one that I kind of came across by accident. And the whole premise is it focuses on a superhero one named Ultra, and her real name's Pearl. And basically, it doesn't really focus on her being a superhero so much. I mean, there were some of the aspects, but just basically her life and how her having powers and all that kind of affects it. Basically, she's kind of, she's on her own. She can't, doesn't have, she's kind of lonely and that kind of thing. But it was a really good book. Les, were you the one that introduced me to that? You may have been.
I don't remember.
Okay. And of course, Luna Brothers.
I could be at fault, but
yeah. And of course, Luna Brothers turned around and did Girls, which was an awesome follow-up, which is kind of a alien invasion, except for the aliens are nude women. That was
Mike, I have nothing to do with that.
Well, I don't remember there being any cussing, but there could have been, so who knows. Some of the other ones, Shaman's Tears by Mike Grell, which it dealt with a half-breed who finds out that he has the powers of the animals and the earth itself, and he becomes kind of the protector of the planet. And he would actually bring in John Sable toward the end of this run. It was like a 12-issue run. But then again, I'm a Mike Grell fan, so that was a hard sell for me. It was a very good story. Another one, you probably remember this, Les. Big Bang Comics?
The Big Bang?
No, Big Bang Comics. Not the TV show. Big Bang Comics.
No, I mean, there's a current series. It was the Big Bang, then the Bigger Bang, and the final was the Biggest Bang.
No.
But this was, refresh my memory.
This is one that was basically kind of done in the spirit of the Silver Age and Golden Age comics, where you had like the Night Watchman, which was an obvious takeoff of Batman, but it was written and drawn in the styles of the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
That was a fun read.
Well, yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, they also did 1963, which was a miniseries, and that was kind of taken from old school Marvel too, which would
Yes.
that was a fun read,
That was what, a 4 issue?
something like that, yeah.
Wow.
And I've got to follow it up with Shadowhawk. Shadowhawk was one of those that got my attention from the get go. I mean, you're talking about a vigilante who went around breaking bad guys' backs, and this was a little bit before the Bane breaking Batman's back in DC Comics, so if I'm not mistaken. So obviously Valentino came up with the idea first, but the mystery of who this was, why he was doing it, and all that, we didn't find out until I believe it was like in the middle of the second miniseries. So the first miniseries, you just had him run around, and of course the police are trying to track him down and all that. It wasn't until the second miniseries that we find out who it is, why he's doing it, and everything else is going on. And it was a shock. And of course, this was the '90s. This is one of kind of the drawbacks. I remember the issue that they actually revealed who it was. It was a fold out cover. The cover was like the helmet, and then you can actually open it up, and when you open up the cover, it kind of lifts up, and then you see the arms, and then you see the face of the character who was actually Shadowhawk, which at the '90s was cool. But looking back at it now, it's like it's a gimmick cover that the '90s are really well known for. But I don't mean to knock it like that. I mean, it was really cool, but it's also a sign of the times too.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
If I recall, I enjoyed the first couple of issues of it. I did, for some reason, where I was getting my comics, I could not find that title, so I kind of dropped it. But I enjoyed what they presented at the first couple of issues.
And of course, this is the same writer artist that turned around and gave us Normal Man too, so which was a hoot.
Yeah, that's true.
And for those who are not familiar with Normal Man, the whole premise was, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong with this, a son of an accountant or a son of accountant parents put him in a rocket ship because they think the planet's about to blow up, and he's sent off into space, and he lands on a planet where everybody has superpowers.
Yeah.
It's him being called Normal Man. And yeah, that's you chuckle, but that's pretty much it's all done in tongue in cheek and kind of a poking at the whole superhero thing. But it was a great read. It was fun.
I chuckle because it reminds me of Bicycle Repairman.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
We actually haven't had a Monty Python reference in a while.
Yeah, we were overdue.
That's not true. We had one a couple weeks ago, but that's all right. We had
Well, like I said, we were overdue.
Yeah, comedy's one of those things that's hard to pull off. Which is why it's cool that, I mean, Les mentions Rat Queens. You want to talk about fantasy RPG style comedy? Skull Kickers is going to come up at some point in that conversation.
Yeah.
Because that was just too much fun. I miss Skull Kickers.
I wouldn't mind pulling out those trays again and reading them.
Yep.
It's been a while. But congratulations to Image, 25 years, still going strong. You'll be around at least twice as long. You'll another 50, 75. We'll never know.
Putting out good books, man.
Yeah, they're going to be around for a while. And so congratulations, happy anniversary to them.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts before we move on?
I
Les?
do have one.
Okay, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Just to prove that I don't read things that just have 4-letter words in them.
Well, there's always ass. That's 3.
One of my favorite books was Leave It to Chance. And
Okay, yeah.
it was about a 14-year-old girl, Chance Falconer, whose father was an investigator of the paranormal. And it only ran 13 issues. And the 13th issue kind of set it up for another story arc, but never came about. That was a fun series because you had Chance, and she had a pet dragon named St. George. So she was kind of the female Indiana Jones of the paranormal. James Robinson was the writer. I forgot that he was the writer. And Paul Smith was the penciler. James Robinson gave you such good stories for DC when he was doing things like a revamp of Justice Society and looked at the Justice League in a couple of ways. This story, though, Leave It to Chance, was so well done, and it was for all ages. I just sat back and laughed at some of the stuff that they were doing, but there was enough drama in it to keep you entertained and going. Now I'm thinking I need to order the hardcover edition of this just to sit down and read it again.
Sounds like a pretty cool title to me.
Yep. I remember the title, but I didn't check that one out, so I'm gonna have to look into that one. Alrighty. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
Or is that's pretty much it?
I'm all thought it out.
Okay.
I had my say. Thank you.
Okay. So when we come back, we'll do our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Mike.
I am leading off, and I'm going to jump right out here with a trade. Dark Horse is putting out the Weird Detective Volume 1 trade. If you followed this book, if you didn't follow this book, it is about a detective who's kind of a strange guy, and there are really good reasons why he's a strange guy that I'm not going to spoil, but this is essentially a crime story with an interesting horror undertone to it, and it is really enjoyable, so I am really looking forward to picking this up when I can.
You say the detective is strange. Would you say he's weird?
I think the title said that. That's why I was trying not to.
Wow.
I know.
It was a good read, and the art is great.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Fun book.
Yep. Les, you are next.
I'm going to Dynamite Entertainment for John Carter, The End, -- 1. This is written by Brian Wood and Alex Cox. Artwork is by Hayden Sherman. Brian Wood did The Massive. Alex Cox was the deputy director of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. So this is his first foray into writing comics. And Hayden Sherman also did the book, The Few. In this, Mars is on its deathbed. It's been centuries of battle at this time, and a search party locates John Carter and Deja Thoris on a desert moon. And the question is, are they Mars' last hope to take down a despot, or who has brought Barsoom in to the edge of collapse, or not? And when they say the end, I'm hoping that this is not the end of the character. It sounds like a Return of the Dark Knight type feel, when the hero is much older and he must battle for the planet where Batman was battling for the city. And Dynamite has not failed on the Carter or Deja Thoris books. I think they've done very well, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this ought to be fun.
Yeah.
I've liked the what they've done with the John Carter stuff too.
Well, I'll make it unanimous. It's been pretty good. So, and this one's kind of intriguing. So we'll see where it goes from there. All right. My first pick is from DC Comics. It is Justice League of America Rebirth, one shot, written by Steve Orlando and art by Ivan Reyes. And this is essentially putting together the team that's going to be in the new book, led by Batman, with Black Canary, the Ray, Vixen, Atom, of course Ryan Choi Atom because Ray is missing, Killer Frost, who's turned over a new leaf, and Lobo, who is basically paying off, more or less, paying off his debt to Batman. Spoilers for those who've not been reading the Justice League vs. Suicide Squad. But needless to say, this is a very interesting lineup. I've liked the handling of Killer Frost. They've obviously they've turned her more to a villain trying to redeem herself, and I'm sure that is the influence of the Flash TV series playing there, and that's fine. But I've dug how they've handled her in the little crossover and in her one shot. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from there.
Cool.
I would like to see how the main man fits in and see what they do with him, because he's going to be real angry the whole damn time.
I think they'll handle him sort of like, not necessarily early Wolverine with anger issues and all that, but definitely being a rebel, and maybe a little bit of when the Hitman, because wasn't the Hitman kind of doing his own type of thing too when he was part of the Justice League?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's going to be something like that, because I mean he's only doing this, like I said, as to kind of pay off his debt. So I mean, if someone turns around and offers him money to try to take the team out, he's going to take the money and take the team out, because that's Lobo.
I kind of hope they look at it like Guy Gardner.
Oh, they can go that route too.
And of course, to me, the ultimate would be the 2-panel, and see what happens there.
Yeah. He's obviously going to be the irritating one of the book.
Yes.
And depending on how they handle that, I don't have a problem with it. If it gets to the point that it's so annoying that I can't stand the book, then I'll definitely drop it. But if it's where it's funny and that kind of thing, then yeah, it should be fun. So, Mikey, you are up again.
Alrighty. And somewhat fittingly, I'm going to pick an Image book this week. I know. That never happens. I'm going with Throwaways, number 5. This is a book. This is the start of a new arc for this series. And this is a book with two main characters. Abby is a veteran. She's like an Iraq vet who went through, and hopefully I'm not spoiling too much from the first arc, but she was associated with a like a super secret training program, and there's some interesting connotations there. And Dean is a guy who has some basically telekinetic abilities, and he's still trying to figure out if he can even control them at all. But it's been a very interesting series so far. It's there's some heavy psychological stuff happening here, and it makes for some interesting drama.
Cool. It has been a while for this book.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I didn't actually go back to look and see when 4 came out, but it has to have been at least a few months.
Yeah. If there's any criticism I have about Image, I don't have a problem with the break. But some of the breaks are so long that some people think the book has been canceled or it's just that's it. I wish there was a way that they could be a little bit more, hey, this is not over, we're just taking a break, that kind of thing. But that's the only kind of negative I can come up from the publisher.
Right. And that's hard to do. So, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
they do the best they can with it. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, nothing personal against them. It just, as a reader of the books and as of someone who works in a store, comic store, I have people coming up and they ask me what's happened with such and such series, and I can't give them an answer. Like, I'm keeping an eye on it. I'll let you know when it comes back. So, alrighty, Les.
For my second choice, I also have a collection. From Marvel, they are putting out Cloak and Dagger, Shadows and Light. This is one of the characters I really liked in Marvel, and for some reason, I haven't been able to find anywhere where they are consistently appearing. It starts with the Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 64. That was their first appearance. And it carries through 17 issues total of their appearances. And this way, you get to really know the characters. It includes the Cloak and Dagger miniseries and Marvel Fanfare, Team Up Annual. But it was the early stuff that just really was the kick in the butt stuff. They were the characters that were paraded as the anti-drug heroes. And this was real relevant when they first appeared, which was 90s, I believe. So you've got so many creators, and Alan Milgram, Chris Claremont, Kerry Gamble, Bill Sienkiewicz, Ron Friends. It's one of those that is going to be a fun read. It's going to be a massive read. If you're looking at 17 times 24 to 28 pages each, it's going to be interesting to see how they represent it, because it's been collected in book form a couple of other times. I think this is going to be combining 3 previous books to give you this whole outlook. As a result, I'm ready for this. Like I said, these were 2 of my favorites.
Yeah. And the timing, I'm sure it's probably not a coincidence that this is coming out just about the time that they've announced the cast of the upcoming Cloak and Dagger TV series that will be on Freeform, I believe. It used to be ABC Family Channel.
Oh, what a coincidence.
So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, hey.
I'm happy that Freeform is doing it rather than trotting it over to Netflix again. This way, us normal folk can watch it.
So, I'm a fan of Cloak and Dagger too. I remember when they first came out, and I thought they first appeared in one of the Spider-Man books, and it was one of those you weren't sure if they were going to be heroes or they were going to be bad guys, and obviously they became good guys, and then at one point they were thought to be mutants, and they kind of played around with that, and then they took that away. It's another one where it's been kind of, what they've done has been kind of convoluted, but they're still great characters. So, yeah, I'm going to have to put down some bucks and get this as well. It would be nice to read a lot of those stories again. Cool. My second pick is from Aspen Comics, and it is all new Fathom #1. We are relaunching. It's not really a reboot, but they're relaunching the series, coming off of their first crossover event, the Aspen Universe Revelations. The art's by Marco Renna, and it's being written by a friend of ours, Blake Northcutt. This is going to be one of her first regular comic writing gigs. Those who are not familiar with her, she's written a lot of sci-fi novels that have done real well. Arena Mode is one of them, so congratulations to her. I know she's excited about it because she's been posting stuff on social media, so this would be cool. So I'm happy for her. I'm happy for Aspen Comics, and hey, we got Fathom coming out again, so very cool.
That can't be bad.
Nope.
That is good to hear.
Any honorable mentions this week?
Not from me.
Okay.
I have one.
Okay.
And I am going to my comic shop and make sure I get this.
Uh-oh.
It's by Campfire Press. It's The Beatles, All Our Yesterdays. Jason Quinn is the writer. Lailit Kumar Sharma is the artist. This is the story of the Beatles and how they rose to prominence. And it kind of coincides with the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Wow.
This makes me feel old. Yes, I was there to buy a copy when it first came out. Yet, it's one of my favorite albums.
Yeah.
Of anybody.
Oh, yeah. One of the greatest of all time.
So I'm kind of looking forward to the book to see how they handle everything.
And yeah. You realize we just celebrated, what was the 48th anniversary of the performance on the rooftop, which was their last live performance as a group.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, but yes, I'm that old. Okay, move on.
Well, my honorable mention was the Cloak and Dagger collection, so hey, we're all good. So
there we go. Done with that. Boom. That was easy.
So we're good. Alrighty. Any special shout-outs this week?
Should we mention the Jupiter Jet Kickstarter again?
Sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, congrats. They've already met their goal, but they're already on their third stretch goal now?
I was going to say at least second. I haven't looked in a bit.
I think they might have reached their third one, but I may be wrong. I may be a little presumptuous. Well, by this
By the
time,
time this comes out, yeah, they might have.
yeah, they'll be on their third. So yeah, congratulations to them, Ashley and Jason. Well done. And there's still time to get involved and support it if y'all have not.
Yep, go to jupiterjetcomic.com.
There you go.
Check out their stuff.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Okay, so our normal shout-outs. First of all, we say thank you to Manny and Martyr for the music that they supplied for our show. Great group, guys. Awesome musicians. Go check them out. We'll have a link to their page in the show notes, and of course on our podcast page of www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. There will be a link there to the side. You'll see their awesome, pretty cool logo. So go check them out. Check out their music. I also want to shout out Potter and Family, hashtag Potter and Family on Twitter, for spreading the word of the Fellowship. Great group of people, awesome podcasters, any kind of podcast you can think of, literally anything. It's probably being done by one of these guys, so just go to Twitter and do a search, hashtag Potter and Family, and the shows will pop up, and check them out and see what you can find. You'll more than likely come across a really, really good show. Any particular show we want to shout out this week, Mikey?
Sure.
Okay.
We're going to give a little shout out to the Poop Culture podcast. This is three guys, Rick, Jay, and Mark, who talk about pretty much anything. Movies, pop culture, various stuff. They have guests on all the time, and they do it with a decidedly scatological slant. So.
Oh, crap.
Exactly. See, you're getting into the spirit right there. So yeah, check out the Poop Culture podcast. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
If I may, I've got one. Believe it or not.
You have
It's
a
just him.
podcast?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Okay.
A close friend of ours sent this by way of a website or a Facebook. The podcast is Generation Clicks, the Hero Clicks podcast, and it deals with Hero Clicks and the playing of the game, the characters, the new and the old items coming to fruition. And I listened, I really enjoyed it. It was informative. Being a horribly, horribly bad HeroClix player, this was interesting, and it gave me a little insight as to what the hell am I doing here. So I recommend it.
Cool.
Nice.
First of all, Mike, you probably need to make a notation about this, because this may never happen again. Less than a shout out to a podcast.
If all of you listeners out there, mark your calendars, because damn. But no, that's cool.
Beep, beep.
That's very
awesome.
Mike's right. That's cool. That's awesome.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So
we
shout
will
out to
link
them.
we will link them in the show notes for that.
Okay, and of course, a shout out to you, dear listener. Thank you for downloading this episode and our prior episodes. Thank you for listening. We hope you've had a good time. We would like to know, we're always open for feedback, any kind of comments, suggestions, questions are always welcome. And the best way to get a hold of us is you can either go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, go click on the About Us page, and you can fill out the form there, or you can send us an email at email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Feel free to like us and send us a message if you'd like, just so any kind of feedback you'd like to send our way. As I've already stated, we are on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us and send out a shout out saying hi. Mikey has his own Twitter account at Mikey Geek, and I have one as well at TomTCGeek. Feel free to follow us and just say, hey, following you from the show, and we would say, hey, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, be social at us. We will be social back.
Yes. And wherever you download us, whether it's either from iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or if you listen to us on YouTube, please feel free to rate us, whether it's stars or thumbs up, thumbs down, that sort of thing. If you have a couple extra minutes, just feel free to write a little review. Be much appreciated. Let them know that you've been checking this out and how you feel about it. So it would be much appreciated. Anything else? Did I leave anything out?
No, you pretty much nailed it. If you want an excuse, question of the week, as it were.
Okay.
To something to chat with us about on social media. Tell us what your favorite Image comic is.
Exactly, favorite Image comics. Also, we probably will not be doing this for our 50th episode, but we still like to take questions from you. If y'all have any kind of questions that you want us to answer in a particular episode, we'll just save them up and do an episode of answering questions. Please feel free. That would be really cool. We would like to see what y'all would want to pick our brains about.
Right. Could be about comics, could be about anything. We don't care. If it's too personal, we'll shut it down. But that sort of thing.
Yeah, within reason, we will definitely take a look at it and answer in an episode. So please send us questions for us to answer in a future episode.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I guess anything else?
Just the usual. Thanks, everybody.
I iterate that.
That sounds painful.
He does, too. He does it every time.
Thank you, everybody, for listening once again. Y'all have a good night. Take care. We love you guys. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,